At 4ZZZ, we acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we broadcast. We pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging of the Turrbal and Jagera people. We acknowledge that their sovereignty over this land was never ceded.
And we stand in solidarity with them.
Tranzmission on 4ZZZ, amplifying the trans and gender diverse community of Meanjin, Brisbane and beyond.
That's right, you're listening to Tranzmission on 4ZZZ 102.1 FM. My name is Ray. I use they, them pronouns. I'm very excited to be in the studio here today during April Atonement. 4ZZZ has been with me for so long, and I'll chat with you a bit about that later on in the show, my kind of 4ZZZ history. But 4ZZZ is one of those things that's always been a staple in my life. It's been like a backbone, as it were, and it's always so incredibly important to support local community radio and diverse voices. And that includes amazing shows like Culture Vultures and amazing shows like Tranzmission. You know, you got to toot your own horn. I'm so excited on the show today to chat with two amazing poets. First up, a pre-record chat I had with MK Zariel a couple of weeks ago, talking about the new book, Different with Him. And I also spoke to it about Anarchy and poetry. And it was just honestly an amazing, incredible chat. And I've also got, coming into the studio a bit later on this morning, I have local poet, spoken word and slam artist Alexi Edwards, and we'll be chatting about the new book and album, I Am Not Okay. So very, very excited for a little in-studio interview. First of all, though, I will do a little bit of news, which we always, love and hate. We do have some mostly positive news, honestly, this morning. I'm trying to, keep things, fairly optimistic. This first news piece is about a new report by the Australian Human Rights Commission, which found that discrimination against trans and gender diverse people is widespread, with serious impacts on safety, access to essential services, and full participation in society. This report was released on International Trans Day of Visibility, which was 31st of March. The Equal Identities report examines the barriers trans and gender diverse people in Australia face in having their right to equality, dignity and respect upheld, and it draws on 97 submissions as well as Australian and international research. The review found consistent and distressing patterns of discrimination across schools, universities, healthcare, workplaces, housing and the justice system. Now that is obviously, not great news, but it is a fantastic report. And the positive thing that has come out of the Equal Identities report is that it makes 19 recommendations for reform grounded in Australia's human rights obligations. This includes nationally consistent laws that protect against vilification and violence, urgent improvements to data collection so services meet real needs, and system changes that make safety, dignity and equal treatment a lived reality. The Sex Discrimination Commissioner, Dr. Anna Cody, said trans and gender diverse people are part of every Australian community. They contribute to our families and society, and they are entitled to equal respect under the law like anyone else. But too often, their rights are not realised. The experience shared with the Commission show when there are gaps in legal protections, when services aren't designed for everyone, and when data is missing or inaccurate, people are left out. The consequences can be devastating. The Commission noted the review is released amid heightened public discussion around gender, including the spread of harmful stereotypes online that promote restricted ideas about gender roles. Dr. Cody said gender diversity exists across cultures throughout history. Rigid ideas about gender hurt everyone. They limit people's opportunities to be themselves and lead to discrimination and exclusion of people who don't fit binary gender stereotypes. Everyone benefits from respectful, accurate public debate, but when false information about trans and gender diverse people is deliberately spread, it fuels fear, undermines rights, and causes real harm. Trans and gender diverse people deserve the same rights and protections as everyone else. In international news, an indie bookshop, a UK bookshop called The Bookish Type, is inviting customers to vandalise Harry Potter books to raise money for trans healthcare. The Bookish Type is a trans-owned bookstore in Leeds, and it's the only trans woman-owned bookshop in England. The Bookish Type is offering visitors the chance to deface copies of Harry Potter for just 25p, with all proceeds from the initiative going towards supporting gender-affirming healthcare costs. In a statement given to Pink News, the bookshop said, "We came up with this idea a few weeks ago as a silly and cathartic way to raise money for 5 local trans people. It was originally going to only be on our Secondhand Sunday event that we run every few months, where we sell secondhand books and give all the money towards local trans people's healthcare costs. But we did it a week early and people loved it. The bookshop plans to auction the book off once it's all filled up, and has said once this book is filled, we plan to auction it as a trans community art piece and donate the money we get." They're also planning on setting up an online donation page where you can personally deface a page of the book and send through personalised messages and doodles. And back to some local news. Here in Meganjin, on the 31st of March, which was Transgender Day of Visibility, the world's largest trans flag was unveiled, coming in at 800 square metres, and that was unveiled at Davies Park. The flag was created by Trans Justice Meanjin's community sewing workshops over the past month, and the project was highlighting TDOV and calling for the Queensland Government to reinstate trans youth healthcare here in Queensland. This Trans Day of Visibility will be impossible to ignore. Trans Justice Meanjin member Jodie Hall said to Q News in the lead up to the unveiling. Jodie also said, "By making the world's largest trans flag, we will make trans history, unveiling it to the world, a physical symbol of trans love and joy and trans defiance and resistance." And during that unveiling, 4ZZZ faves, Worm Girls and Clover Love also performed a free concert in the park following the unveiling of the world's largest trans flag. Absolutely wild. We're just doing it here in Meganjin and I'm loving it. At the moment, it is April Atonement, and I'm very excited that we have had so many subscribers. So bring it on. If you want to subscribe, head to 4zzz.org.au and please subscribe during transmission. 4ZZZ is an incredible place to work, and it's been with me pretty much since I got my first radio, little tiny radio with headphones when I was a kid, and I had all of the program schedules blue tacked to my wall with my fave shows like Queer Radio and Dykes on Mics highlighted. I was a bit of a nerdy kid, and 4ZZZ got me through so many hard times, and it's also been with me during so many of the good times. I was also an announcer on Megahertz in the mid 2010s, and made friends for life through the station, people who I hang out with now still all the time. And when Transmission first came on air, I was so thrilled that it was part of the 4ZZZ programming, because 4ZZZ is always out here amplifying the voices that need to be heard. And I'm so humbled to be part of the show now. So yeah, thank you for listening to me this morning on your public holiday. And, if 4ZZZ has been a part of your life, it has been with you through those important, life milestones like it has for me, and, during, regular things like boring commutes, then definitely think about subscribing during April Atonement. So head to 4ZZZ.org.au. I'm going to play my interview now with MK Zariel. So MK Zariel uses its pronouns and masc terms. And MK Zariel is a transmasculine neuroqueer theatre artist, Best of the Net and Monarch Award-nominated poet, movement journalist and bashback-aligned anarchist, translocally rooted in the Great Lakes region. The author of Void Gazing, Different with Him, and Void Apparition, it creates conflictual spaces for trans survival and queer desire, spaces of insurgent genders, mutual aid beyond the non-profit gaze, and the kind of care that negates and negation that provides care. You can find more of its offerings, commissions, and chaotic love letters to the world at mkzariel.card with 2 Rs.co. And this is my first part of my chat with MK Zariel.
Hello all, I'm MK Zariel. My pronouns are it, its, and I'm a transmasculine poet, theater artist, and bashback-aligned anarchist organizer. I'm the author of 3 poetry chapbooks, Void Gazing, Different with Him, and Void Apparition. I also collaborate with literary magazines and with community organizing spaces across the Great Lakes region and beyond.
Amazing. I'm so excited to have you on the show. I've been a fan of your poetry for a while, and I'm excited to talk to you about poetry and organizing and all the amazing stuff that you do. I'd like to talk first maybe about your poetry chapbook, Different with Him, which is out now with a Rockwood Press, and it's described as a collection of haphazard masculinities, which I really love that quote. Did you want to tell me a bit more about the collection and what readers can expect if they grab a copy?
In a society with patriarchy, being transmasculine is about building something new, something different, something better from the ground up, while also contending with societal norms that might make that difficult. To give some context, I am transmasculine and non-binary, and when I transitioned, I was intent that I would not pass, that I would not be binary, but I also wouldn't engage with patriarchy, and I wouldn't be the kind of toxic dude that people tend to have problems with. So as a result, I started to interrogate how that looked interpersonally, how that shaped my intellectual and emotional connections, what it looked like to engage with other masc people, if it was possible to have guy friends as a transmasculine person, and spoiler alert, it was. And if so, how that went and what that looked like, and how interpersonal engagement as a transmasculine person reflected on that broader question of what we want to take from traditional masculinity, what we want to take from more books or culturally lesbian conceptions of masculinity, and of course how that intersects with anarchist organizing and with the political side of the trans community. So in Different with Him, there are poems about gender dynamics in the anarchist community. There are poems about interpersonal struggles and conflict. There are poems about internalized transphobia. There are a couple, vent poems and responses to themed calls, and it's very much the kind of chapbook that I didn't write all in one sitting. I put it together from poetry I'd written over a couple of months, and so it has kind of like a scrapbook or diary vibe to it at times. But those are the questions that I feel like it deals with as a whole.
I love that, and I think that it's really powerful and important to look at masculinity and kind of, I guess pick and choose, and also what we want from traditional masculinity, but also kind of rewrite things and as you said, look at lesbian spaces as well. And it's just it's such a incredible chapbook, and I love how you look at masculinity from that perspective, because I think a lot of people don't look at masculinity in that way. And I think trans people, we have that kind of power to rewrite things and reimagine things for ourselves.
Exactly. And like, I consider myself a transmasculine book. My masculinity is culturally lesbian, and that's also a thing that I'm writing about, primarily in Void Apparition, but also to an extent in Different with Him.
Yes, I love that. And I think I often describe myself as femme in a faggot way, but butch in like masc in like a lesbian way. And yeah, that's exactly that. Yeah, right? Like, it's like, I love that so much. Did you want to read a couple of poems from that collection?
Yes, I do. So this first poem is called Voices, and it's referencing the prompt of like an inner voice scene. So like the classic angel and devil on one's shoulders, but it has a queer and trans twist on that concept. What nobody tells you about transitioning is that the voices in your head take it and run with it. The supposed angel on your shoulder, that uptight little gremlin with its dime store wings and cardboard halo, tells you to pay attention to the stares, the whispers, the people who pretend they can't pronounce your pronouns, the people who know they can be respectful but choose not to. The supposed devil on your shoulder thinks it's intimidating, but it's not, because it looks embarrassingly like your Pinterest board. Your relatives ask you questions they could search online, and it comforts you like only a figment of your imagination could. The two cliched supernaturals have an argument in front of the all-shattering mirror in the gender-neutral bathroom that makes you and everyone else feel affirmed in the closet. They tear each other's hair while, bracing yourself, you cut off yours. You tell your therapist you struggle with internalized transphobia, and he tells you to brush it off. But there's no way you can take that literally. The voices are yours. You thank your inner voices with an info dump and a quiet smile, and the supposed angel reminds you that all you are is what you think other people think of you thinking of them. The supposed devil reprimands the supposed angel for being confusing. You throw away your dresses, and eventually they throw away their dispute. You are made of the words thrown like daggers, it is true, but you melt them down and make them shining armor for your new body-mind. And the other one I'd like to read is called For a Random Dude at an Anarchist Convergence. It's modeled after Terry Lynn Davis's poem Quadruples on It to My AWP Lit Crash. And it's about intellectual friendship and desire and ideas of masculinity in anarchist spaces. Post-movement despair is different with you, I text him after giving a youth liberation talk and getting off topic after 10 minutes. You ask me if I've radicalized you yet, and I reply that a genderless negation can dream. I chose you because it was the summer of 23 at the time, and nothing seemed weird compared to the A-News comments, which means you're normal and I'm loved. I look awkward in the mosh pit. That night you just stay in and read like a boy after my heart. I film my friend's workshop like an embarrassing aunt and toddler's recital. You don't laugh at me, and I call that character. That summer sounded like against me and lively debates that dissolve as quickly as light gray Midwestern rainfall, and I learned for the first time that theorists are normal people. Except for you. And we discussed anarcho-nihilism in some random graveyard while trying desperately to seem unpretentious, but still I call you and launch into swifty-level discussion of someone's analysis of Baidan. You don't make fun of me, and that's how I know you're mine and I'm yours. And who have I become? And a year later, I send you a zine about egoist anarchism. And you tell me you've outgrown me, and it's the fall of 24, and everything seems weird solely because we like it that way. 10 of us gather at an undisclosed section of Desire. We declare we're done with monumental organizing, but really we're just gay and tired. Except that you are assimilating and tired, but still. Could we co-author an anonymous communique so I get to watch you try to sound like anyone but the neurotic angel boy I fell for? Have you read Renzo Novatore? You haven't? Why are you done with me? What the hell is wrong with you? Do we need to start an affinity group? Have you read Terra Incognita? Do you just ask because you're afraid of me and feel too weird to admit it? Here's my definition of negation. Not industrial sabotage or any of the classic stuff, but getting a text from you and not responding, because maybe that's generative too. Those are a couple of poems from Different with Him, and if you'd like to read the rest of the poems in Different with Him, it is available on Rockwood Press's website.
That was so many lines of gold. Like I muted myself because I kept like clicking and like cheering. That was fantastic. Thank you so much for reading those poems for us.
Thank you for inviting me to.
I was thinking about your first, I think it was your first collection, which was Void Apparition through Vinegar Press, and I wanted to maybe talk about that one as well, and like how that collection looks at masculinities and what went into kind of writing that collection and what the transformation has been between like that collection and Different with Him.
The main question of Void Apparition, I'd say, is the question of atemporality, of how we as trans people, and specifically maybe transmasculine people, engage with the future and with linear time. Because when one is trans, one doesn't necessarily have to buy into the milestones of normative cis life. That is you go to high school, you go to college, you get married, you have kids, you retire, you die narrative. Because when you're trans, you come into yourself later, or you come into yourself differently, or you build a family differently, or maybe desire looks different, and the idea of having one long-standing bounded relationship and otherwise controlling your desires feels alien or like it's not right. And in general, to be trans is to choose autonomy over future, to choose desire over legibility, to choose not to self-repress. And so Void Apparition was about that, about the question of what does my future look like if I live in sync with my desires? Do I have one? Do I want one? And if I don't, what does that mean about my politics? And what does that mean about how I show up in community? And of course, I was, and let's be real, still am, reading a lot of Lee Edelman and a lot of critical theory from within the bashback tendency that all deals with this question of atemporality and nonlinearity. So as a result, I was using the space to think through that. There's still plenty of poetry, as in Different with Him, about what it looks like to be in community as a transmasc person. But I'd say it's a little bit more direct, it's a little bit more insular, it's a little bit more about what it feels like internally to be trans, and a little less about how we relate to others when we're trans.
I really like what you said about trans time, and I think a lot about queer time and trans time, and how, we don't necessarily follow that linear path. I think some people can if they want, I guess, like as you said in the last poem about assimilating, like sometimes people do decide to go on that escalator, but so often we have to create our own narratives and our own futures, and I think that that's so incredibly powerful and beautiful, and it's something that I love about being trans, and I really love that that's something that you reflect in your work and in Void Apparition.
Yes, exactly. And to be clear, I believe trans community is for everybody, and if someone has aspects of that normative pathway that feel resonant to them, they still deserve to be in trans spaces. They're still 100% validly trans. And at the same time, I think one of the most beautiful things about our community is that we have other options.
Yeah, 100%. I think I know a lot of people who, especially there's a local open mic night that I go to, and it's a predominantly trans queer space, but there's a lot of people who don't use those words, but they find community within that space, and I think that that's really incredibly important, that they are able to be part of that community as well.
Yes, and this is something that I've kind of changed my mind about over the years, but in many ways I believe that under anarchism everyone is trans, because really It requires state power to come up with stereotypes about people's body types, impose those stereotypes when they're born, and create a set of circumstances in which they need a whole identity and community just to identify with something other than what was assumed about them based on their body when they had literally just been born. Like, that requires the apparatus of state power and the nuclear family. And without state power and the nuclear family, I'm sure that most, if not all, people would opt for gender self-determination, whether or not that aligned with prior stereotypes about their body type. So it's beautiful to be in trans community, and at the same time, as anarchism expands, so does trans community.
Yeah, I think that's an incredibly illuminating point, because so often I see people, adhering to different, gender stereotypes, and then as soon as they break free of those stereotypes, they're, you can see the light in their eyes, and you can see them kind of flourishing, and it's really beautiful. And that is a very trans experience, whether you say that you're cis or trans. At the end of the day, it's like, being yourself and kind of being free from those constraints is so incredibly validating and important for people.
Yes, exactly. And even the freedom to come at stereotypes from a direction that isn't bounded and isn't about conforming to stereotype. Like, for example, I am transmasculine, and I also happen to align very much with feminism politically and have a deep love for feminist theory. And that is stereotypically something that people who are femme-identifying might be into. And stereotypically, I was, brought up to be femme-identifying. But that didn't pan out, and I still align with that one particular stereotype, and in trans spaces, that's okay.
Yeah, I think when I first came out as non-binary, like I was on another show here on 4ZZZ. I was co-hosting Megahertz, which is our feminist show, and I remember being really concerned, like, oh, can I still be a feminist and be non-binary? And at the end of the day, I realized that those two things are very linked within my community and my life, and that feminism is incredibly important because I'm non-binary.
Yes, and at the end of the day, every strand of liberation necessitates the liberation of desire. Like, there's no world in which it's a feminist act to self-repress, or even a trans liberationist act to self-repress.
Yes, exactly that. And I think, this sort of reminds me of when we published your piece, Transistor, on NB Life Journal, and our listeners have already heard that incredible reading as well a couple of weeks ago. And you talk in your bio about creating conflictual spaces for trans survival and queer desire, spaces of insurgent genders, mutual aid beyond the non-profit gaze, and the kind of care that negates and negation that provides care. And I wondered if you wanted to talk a bit more, like we're already talking about it now, but talk a bit more about your kind of organizing efforts and anarchist aims.
Well, like I said before, as an organizer, my driving force is this idea of liberating desire, how we need trans communities that go beyond survival and allow people to get in touch with their impulses, their need for community, all of it. So as a result, the organizing that I participate in is multifaceted. I do art and literary work. I volunteer for a Books to Prisoners project. I volunteer at a punk venue. I do Palestine solidarity work. I'm part of a trans survival network that does everything from helping people access food and housing to hosting social events. And of course, I see myself as a part of the broader queer bash back tendency. So rather than only participating in one affinity group and only doing anything with that one affinity group, I strive to build community with anarchists who share this kind of queer liberationist, egoist aligned philosophy, regardless of whether they're in the same buyout region or they're not. Because I believe anarchist community is necessarily translocal, and it's really important to organize with folks who might live in a different city or focus on a different cause.
The fact that you do so much work, and like there's so many communities that you spend time with. Like I think that's really important, because there is such an intersection between all of the the ways in which like anarchism isn't just one thing, and I think that all of those those volunteer roles intersect with each other, as you said before. Like there's so many different threads, and at the end of the day it's all about liberation.
Yes, exactly. And I think especially as youth and teens, we hear the idea that people have to choose one political cause that they care about and then spend all of their energy there, when really all of it is tied together. Like, you can be trans and pro-Palestine. You can be trans and do climate work. And none of that takes away from each other. In fact, a lot of it helps to build coalition. I do a lot of like prison abolition related work, supporting defendants, people who are incarcerated, particularly those who are in the queer and trans community. And I don't see that as any different from my trans survival work. It's just helping people through a crisis who need it, and there's nothing more anarchist than that.
4ZZZ is hard to label. Subscribe, renew that old subscription, or buy some merch. It's April Atonement time. Go to 4ZZZ.org.au.
My name is Ray. I use they, them pronouns, and you are listening to Tranzmission on 4ZZZ. And it's beautiful April Atonement season, and I'm so thrilled to have a show like Tranzmission on 4ZZZ. It's just a huge honour to be one of the announcers on this incredible show. So if you do want to keep shows like this on the air, please subscribe during April Atonement. 4ZZZ.org.au. I'm going to play for you now the final part of my interview with MK Zariel. And I will say that in the first part of the interview, I forgot to mention this, but one of MK Zariel's mates' previous sons, there was the backing track from that artist, was the backing track for MK Zariel's poetry reading. So that was Previous Sons with Chillin' Like a Villain, if you want to check out that track. So this is the final part of my interview with MK Zariel, its pronouns, who is a transmasculine neuroqueer theatre artist and the author of Void Gazing, Different with Him, and Void Apparition. And if you want to find out more information and check out its work, you can go to mkzariel.card.co. And if there's any listeners who want to kind of get involved in activist work and, who maybe even want to like write poetry as part of their form of resistance, do you have any like advice or, ideas that they could put into practice?
In terms of activist work, the main advice I have is to learn about the anarchist community in your city or somewhere else and plug in however you can. So that might look like joining a chapter of a larger organization. That might look like finding your local info shop or your local punk venue or another space like that and seeing what initiatives there are there. Or it might look like starting your own thing based on a need that you see. And if you don't live in a city with community organizing work, there is so much you can do in digital spaces as well. And if you do live in a city with community organizing work, getting involved in those digital spaces is a good way to kind of broaden the community of people that you're a part of. Getting into activism is not about finding the perfect affinity group. It's about joining a bunch of spaces and seeing what feels good and what you enjoy and which people you vibe with and building out based on that. As for poetry, I'd say it's a similar thing. If I had to go back in time and give my younger self one bit of advice about poetry, it would be to stop freaking out about submitting to literary magazines and just do it. I read a lovely article about a year ago by someone who had set a goal for themselves to get 100 rejection letters a year, meaning that they'd have to submit to probably over 100 opportunities in order to get that. And spoiler, they met their goal, but they also got 3 acceptances, including to a journal and a residency and things they didn't even think they could get into. And while I don't track it like that, I absolutely try for that ethic when I'm submitting. I think that the more we get into community, the more we put our work out there, the higher a chance we have of it finding a home. among people who will actually resonate with it and find it helpful or interesting. And as a corollary in the writing process itself, I think it's really important to be experimental. For me, sometimes that looks like writing from a themed call, or trying a new topic, or even trying to write a poem inspired by one that I read recently, or something like that. Because sometimes we have like 2 or 3 topics that we gravitate toward, and then when those run out, we end up blocked. And the more we're in community and the more we're reading and engaging with indie lit, the less that happens. And finally, this is more poetry specific, but I'd also say to know your worth and self-advocate, because sometimes indie lit does intersect with freelancing, which means that one does run into mags that do not pay people on time, or don't publish people's work, or will have typos in your poem, or will format it weirdly, or will put it next to AI art, a thing that has sadly happened to me.
Oh,
and in
God.
those, yes, it was weird. It's still up. I've kind of given up doing anything about it because it's too weird. But I'd say to know your worth and self-advocate, even if you're a new poet. It doesn't cost you anything other than a publication at a place that didn't respect you in the first place. To write to somewhere asking for the formatting you need on your poem, or to be paid on time if that's part of your agreement, or anything like that. Creative labor is labor. Anyone who tells you otherwise has never written a poem before. And as poets and as anarchist organizers, we must know our worth and know our boundaries and self-advocate all that we can.
I love that so much, and I think that is a really key point for like a lot of poets at any stage of their like journey with poetry. So I really appreciate that so much. Is there anything else that you want to mention, like any other upcoming publications or anything else that's happening this year?
Yes, so I host a podcast called The Chillin Enemies. It's available on the Channel Zero network if you want to take a listen. It's about youth liberation, so what it looks like to build networks of care for youth that are not ageist and don't have power dynamics, what it looks like to move past nuclear family and compulsory education, all the rest. And I also have yet another book coming out because I got 3 book deals in the summer and accepted all of them.
Oh my goodness.
But this book is called Void Gazing. It's about what it means to build community in digital space as queer and trans folks. It's out in mid-May on Whittle Micro Press. And if you can believe it, I also have a website. It's at mkzariel.card.co. So mkzariel.carrd.co. And you can find my blog, my podcast, my zines, my published poetry, my events, my social media, my tendency to overcommit to projects, and more on there.
Honestly, the overcommit to projects, relatable content.
Yes, I say this at the end of every book event because I always have to list about 30 different things that are on my website, and I feel the need to acknowledge that it is because I have ADHD.
Oh, thank you so much for chatting with us today. And listeners, please get on that. We will link to all of MK Zariel's incredible work in our show notes as well. Thank you so much for chatting with me today.
Thank you. And I would like to name that with 3 books out, I am very open to collaboration. So if anyone listening would like bulk copies of my book in their space, or would like to host an event or write a review or do anything like that, please contact me via my email or social media. I would like to build community. I'd love for this to be the start of something rather than the end.
My name is Ray. I use they, them pronouns, and you are listening to Tranzmission on 4ZZZ. And I have a fantastic guest, local poet and spoken word artist, with me in the studio. Would you like to introduce yourself, your name, your pronouns, all that jazz?
Yeah, my name's Alexi Edwards. I use she, her pronouns. I originally started up in Bulu, that's Perth, and have somehow ended up in Meanjin, Brisbane. two completely different spoken word scenes. It's insane how different it is, but I love it here.
That's really interesting to hear, actually. Like, obviously we're here to talk about your new book and accompanying spoken word album, but I am interested to hear like a little bit about the difference between the spoken word scenes between like here and Perth. Like, that's interesting.
So Perth doesn't have the reputation for this, but there is always something poetry related on. Like, you got Perth Poetry Club is weekly. Back in the day, spoken word Perth was fortnightly. Then, like, here they have Perth Slam, which...
Oh, yeah.
The big one.
The big one. Oh, it sounds like... I mean, like, obviously, I'm here for people, you know, staying here in Meganjin and, you know, keeping the poetry scene flourishing. But at the same time, yeah, sounds like that's fantastic. Like, go visit Boorloo and, like, yeah, have a little poetry time.
Yeah, I've been trying to get a trip organised.
Yes. Yeah, and we were talking before off air about the potential for touring this incredible new book and spoken word album that you've produced. So tell me, first of all, what is the book and spoken word album called, and like a little bit more about it for listeners who don't know your work.
Okay, so the book's called I Am Not Okay. It's got the not stylistically crossed out in the book version. Basically, the book is a culmination of me putting off procrastinating on getting out a zine for a decade. And basically, it's in like a narrative format about kind of reaching your lowest point and your recovery from that and becoming not thriving, but just okay.
Yeah, which I feel like a lot of people, especially in this current climate that we find ourselves in, can relate to. It's like, and I do like the fact that you have crossed out the not, like, because it has that, it's you know, like that has that kind of blackout poetry feel to it, because sometimes we are okay while simultaneously being not okay. What went into kind of the recording and the publishing of I Am Not Okay?
So I take great pride in being an independent artist.
Hell yeah.
And like, my view, like, I'm not dunking on artists that aren't independent, but I've got such a crazy independent streak that I could not let someone tell me what to do with my work. It's just not who I am as an artist. So I did the book, then the album. Anyone who has experienced my work before will know that anything that I write is with the intention to be performed. So book went first. I went through the portfolio, grabbed some classics, and, you know, got some classics, designed some new poems for the...
Some backing track music there.
Yes. Made some new pieces for the book, put it all together. And what's insane about this book is I've designed a, you know, professional-ish looking book.
Yeah.
On an iPhone.
Which, when you said that to me before off air, I was like, that's incredible. Like, that's... And it does. It looks incredibly professional. And I think, like, as you said before about being independent, it's so important, especially, you know, like, once again, referencing the current world that we, you know, find ourselves in, especially for trans and queer artists to be independent and to kind of put their work out there on their own terms, which, you know, you absolutely have done. And, you know, it's absolutely fantastic to see that. I'm so impressed. What sort of tell us a bit more about the topics and stuff that people might come across in the book and album.
So The book itself uses your theatre structure rather than your traditional, like, say, table of comments.
Yes.
Split into 3 parts, and the album works exactly the same. They're designed to be consumed standalone or together because accessibility is important, hence why the font's so large.
Which I love that. Like, I think that is only something that I come across in, like, large print versions of books and zines, and I think that's fantastic. Yeah, go on. Yeah,
so the first third is 3 poems relating to the theme of being at my lowest point, wanting to get better, and figuring out how to. Even though my medium is traditionally spoken word, I have put a traditional poem in that section, my signature long-form haikus, where I combine haikus as stanzas of a poem because I cannot write in 3 lines for the life of me. Then the longest section is the second section, which is 10 poems. What I've done for this section is basically looked at the recovery process, the being a work in progress. And I've also, because it's an Alexi Edwards book and album, I've thrown in some of the more famous classics like Vaccines Don't Cause Autism, which went absolutely viral. It was insane. And of course, my most famous poem, Read the Effing Poem. And then of course, you've got your continued recovery stuff, and I've also, as a treat, combined 2 of my older poems into a single 10-minute epic.
Oh my goodness.
And then for the third section, 5 poems, it looks at where we are now.
Yes.
It's a celebration of the fact that I've been doing this for a goddamn decade now. A celebration of love, friendship, the last 10 years of my life. It's probably my favourite section.
I love that, and I feel like it's a beautiful, like, it's a journey that the reader or the listener will be taken on, and I think that sort of is... It's a beautiful thing for a book to be. And I did want to talk to you about your, going back to what you were saying before about the viral poems. I love that so much. Obviously, maybe we should give a content warning for these poems. But actually, I was going to say, do you want to perform either one of your viral poems for us? This is,
See, Read the Effing Poem requires just the mother of all content warnings, whereas Vaccines Don't Cause Autism is about 5 minutes long rather than slam length, but it is the one that went semi-viral.
Oh, well, look, why not? Let's do both. Okay. Let's do read the effing poem, but we'll give many content warnings. So if you are in the car or something at the moment and there's small ears, tender ears, then maybe tune out. We've got swear words. We've got, what else have we got? Oh, we've got a whole hog, haven't we? We've got, misogyny, transphobia, homophobia, racism, anti-Semitism, genocide, polyphobia and biphobia. So if they're things that you don't want to hear for the next, let's say, 3 to 4 minutes.
It goes for 3 minutes.
3 minutes? Oh, this is a professional spoken word artist.
Maybe
We've got
2. Wait, no, this was my entry into APS 2025, so that means it's just under 2 minutes.
Just under 2 minutes. Alrighty, friends. Tune out for just under 2 minutes. This is Read the Fucking Poem.
BBC, 25th of January 2025. First they came for the immigrants and I spoke out because I've read the rest of the fucking poem. NBC, 3rd of February 2025. Next they came for the trans folk and I spoke out because I've read the rest of the fucking poem. Pink News, 11th of July 2025, and now they're coming for the bisexuals, and suddenly the cis folk have read the rest of the fucking poem. And now our beloved acronym is just LG. And anyone who has read the fucking poem can see what's next. Next, they will go after the lesbians, and then finally the gays. Total eradication of our beloved acronym be not the final goal, so read the fucking poem. There's no way they're stopping there. If you aren't straight, white and Christian, then you're next. Read the fucking poem. They'll eradicate those filthy polyamorous adulterers. Read the fucking poem. History says the Jews are never safe. You can't deport indigenous folk, but the Trail of Tears and Stolen Generation shows that genocide is an option. Read the fucking poem. Next, they will subjugate all women as per the fucking poem. While Australia claims to have read the fucking poem, we're more like the Americans than you think. And so, should you not want a real-life Gilead, should their final solution not be your goal, then reread the fucking poem, for there will be nobody left to speak out for you.
Oh, that is what we're talking about. Intersectionality, support people within your community and outside of your community. Love that poem. Thank you so much for reading that on air. Oh, I wanted to chat maybe a bit more about like where people can see you like perform and where they can like grab copies. Like what gigs are you doing coming up?
So spoken word to me is not just something I do, it's a lifestyle.
Heck yeah.
If you go to a Brisbane gig, I will probably be there. The only gig I think I don't go to is Poets on Saturday, and that's because 10:30 a.m. on a Saturday is not my thing. But the one I regular the most is Echoes at the Cave-In. I absolutely love the Echoes team. You'll also
They're wonderful, yeah.
Yes. You'll also find me at Speakeasy. Really nice space, more flexibility with the time, which suits my writing style, which is great. Also, I always compete in the Ruckus Slam.
Yes.
So you'll be able to find me there this month. So the books on the back have a number out of 70. There are 70 copies that are being sold.
Only 70.
Only 70 for the first run, but there's no guarantee I'll do a second run. When I sold the first copy, I wrote the number 2 on it. Number 1, this Ruckus Slam last Wednesday of the month. This month I am auctioning book number 1. And that'll come with the digital album as well. If you want the CD, you've got to pay for it. No, CDs are expensive to make.
I was going to say, and like it's also one of those things a lot of people these days don't have a CD player. Look, I still have my Discman from my childhood. So, you know, I love that so much. I love the idea of it being, because, you know, it's a something that you have, you know, created yourself. This is... You know, that number 1 is a rare copy.
Oh,
so that's at Ruckus last Wednesday of the month.
Last Wednesday of the month, I'm auctioning a copy of it off. And to show how serious I am about the numbering,
amazing.
I've got a modified quote on the back. You may be a print run, but I am the print run, the original, you might say. It's from Doctor Who episode Twice Upon a Time, I think. But yeah, so this is a one-of-a-kind copy that's being auctioned. All 70 are one-of-a-kind, different number, but one is special. And then the gig I haven't mentioned yet, I've started regularing at Dark Poetry at Evil Corp. I absolutely love their slam format. It's insane. Love the team behind it, and I'm really happy I got into that. Also, I might add, only Brisbane poetry event on the north side. Fortitude Valley counts. Fortitude Valley counts.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
As a poet that lives on the north side, half my fuel bill is poetry.
Honestly, most of the time when I go out, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to a poetry gig. That's all my go card is. It's just like racking up poetry miles.
As for if you want to see me for more than 5 minutes, I'm booked into Alternator Poetry Slam, which is the Gold Coast Slam.
So exciting.
At the end of July. That is the July Slam. That's really exciting. It's been too long since I've had a feature. About a year, actually. My last feature would have been Perth Poetry Club.
That's awesome. And feature, and that one's in, you said July.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So that'll be 30 to 40 minutes of me. And then...
Love it.
I have not announced this on socials yet because I'm still just getting the final pieces together. I am going to be turning the album version, not the book version, into a live show.
Yes.
So the kind of idea we're going for here is, what if a stand-up show but poetry?
Yes, I love this. And I think that's something that I really want to see more of. That's beautiful. And that's something that you're in the process of turning into a live show?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
As the deadline looms, it gets more and more stressful. But I do know the set. Only 2 poems are being cut. So...
Oh, interesting.
I didn't want to. It's just... I want to take... The Brisbane version of the live show is a proof of concept. Brisbane will be getting a full season, but that'll be 2027. I want to take this show on an Australia and New Zealand fringe tour.
Amazing.
And the fringe limit is 60 minutes. The album is 60 minutes. So to actually incorporate that stand-up part of the show, Life of an Artist has to go. It's a 10-minute poem.
Ooh, I was like, that is a shame, but it's sometimes you've got to make those tough decisions.
I will be performing Life of an Artist at my feature at Alternator Slam.
I was going to say that's perfect because that's a long feature set. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, I totally already know what I'm performing at that feature. I've got the list down.
I love that. I was like, you're so professional, and I love that. We were saying for this week, so if you are in Meanjin this week, we've got Tuesday Echoes from the Cave-In. So that's, oh my gosh, that's tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then Thursday, Speakeasy.
Yeah.
So if you want to get along to either of those. And when we were talking before about the fact that you've been doing this for, did you say 10 years? I was like, how did you first get into just poetry and spoken word?
Yeah, tomorrow is my 10-year anniversary.
Oh my God. Happy poetry-versary.
yeah. At Cave-In, I'm doing a very special poem. It's in the book. It's called 10 Years After, which basically is a recount of the last 10 years and the emotion behind it. It is not one of my funny political pieces. It is one of the more actual serious poems. How I got into it. So, Perth Poetry Politics. Perth Poetry Politics. The anti-poet runs Perth Slam. His daughter, Checkout Chick, used to run back in the day Perth, Spoken Word Perth. His daughter is really close friends with my cousin.
Incredible. Oh my God.
My cousin invited me to come once, and so basically because of who my cousin was friends with, I came, I enjoyed it, and then 2 weeks later, I did my first poem live. It was a 1-minute poem. It was truly terrible. If you want to see it, it is still on the Perth Spoken Word Perth YouTube channel. It was called I Am Gender Fluid, but of course gender is a continuously evolving concept. And so in the last 10 years, that poem is quite dated. But the love of poetry just came entirely accidentally, and
it's never left.
Oh,
and I was going to say, before we let you loose out into the world, first of all, would you like to read one more poem for us?
Sure. Got a request?
Oh, I was like, do I have a request? Maybe something. We were talking before about the love poems, and we were saying off air how you don't write love poems, but there is a poem that is about your friend. I think that is that one that you'd want to maybe read, because I love the idea of friendship love and kind of cultivating those beautiful relationships that we have in our life outside of romantic love. So I would love to hear that one.
Firstly, gotta mention how well presented it is in the book.
Oh, I was like, I'll do a little visual description. Oh, we've got love poem. We've got a photo of you two.
Just constant, all
these beautiful photos. It's like a little, as a visual descriptor, it's like there's about 4 black and white photos, and they accompany like different, like they're throughout like the different stanzas of the poem. And that's really gorgeous. I love that. All right, let's hear love poem.
Okay. This is a poem about someone I love. Dear 2017 Alexi, I know you just saw him in class. You saw him and he saw you. And you don't know it yet, but you just had him meet cute. One to remember for the age, but I need to warn you, you have 6 months, don't take it for granted. You walked past him in the library. Once again, your eyes have met. You said hi, and so did he. You then paced right back and asked, so, do you have Facebook? His friends were oohing and ahhing. That was your second meet cute. You have 6 months. I'm telling you not to take it for granted. It is now that I want to let you know that while this is absolutely a love story, it's not that kind of love story. You and he won't get together before he leaves. While you will go on a couple dates way down the line, the love you share will be that of siblings and deeper than you ever know. You have 6 months, don't take it for, and are taking it for granted. You have 6 months and are taking it for granted. You will blink and 6 months will have passed, a friendship like no other with an expiry date always known. He is going to leave without saying goodbye, and though you won't know it at the time, he didn't mean to hurt you. Later you will find out that he just doesn't like endings. Saying goodbye to you would just have been too hard, but this is not where the story ends. You had 6 months and took it for granted. You had 6 months and took it for granted. You had 6 months and took it for granted. You will only see him a few days at a time, but never in the same cities twice. You've brought him chicken salt in Valencia, Remscheid, Dusseldorf and Paris. And despite mutual love being declared, nothing will ever be defined, but that's okay because he will always be your commission. Your phone conversations will go for hours and be deeper than you've ever known, and there will never be a day you don't miss him. It wasn't 6 months, it was a lifetime. It wasn't 6 months, it was a lifetime. I miss my friend. I miss my friend. I miss my friend.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that was gorgeous. I think everyone who listened to that, go message a friend and tell them, even just check in, say hi, say I love you. That was absolutely gorgeous. Thank you for sharing such a vulnerable poem that is both, I feel like that has so much depth to it, and it's both nourishing and heartbreaking in equal measure, which I think I would sum up your whole collection as that. It's absolutely incredible. Thank you so much. And if people love that poem and love the poem that you read before, where can they find out more about your work and obviously come to all the incredible gigs that you're doing that we spoke about before? But yeah, what kind of social media or what kind of website, all that kind of vibe?
So if you want to buy the book online directly, it's really easy. Just co-feed ko-fi.com/Alexi Edwards. That's ALEXIEDWARDS. As for socials, I'm slowly expanding it. The kind of Alexi Edwards spoken word central would be Instagram. That's where everything goes. That is at alexi.edwards.poetry. You can also find me on YouTube under Alexi Edwards spoken word.
Amazing.
And then I've also got finally made a Facebook page linked to the Instagram account, which you'll find on Facebook by looking up Alexi Edwards spoken word.
Amazing. And we can link to a bunch of those in the show notes as well. So you can head to the 4ZZZ website, to the Tranzmission page. And if you want to click on those links. Honestly, thank you so much for joining me this morning and previewing two of your poems from I Am Not Okay, the new book with accompanying spoken word album that you produced and recorded all by yourself. I love it so much. Like, that independence in the poetry community is so important. I love what you do. Thank you so much for joining me. Was there anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, two things. One, to give you an idea of how indie this is, the album was recorded in my shower with a towel for sound buffing. I have added a new meaning to the phrase singing in the shower. And secondly, that album, you're not going to find it on Spotify. You're not going to find it on Apple Music. As it currently stands, you can only access it by buying it at this point. So when you buy it, you are getting exclusive access on the streaming service that pays its artists best, SoundCloud. So you'll be able to listen to it alongside all your normal listening that you do for a streaming service, but you can only access it with the link.
And I love that. I think that's so important, and that's part of like the indie process. Is it's, you know, from shower cubicle to your pocket, and that is what is important, is supporting indie artists' poetry and spoken word and music, etc., etc. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Alexi Edwards, please check out the new book and spoken word album, I Am Not Okay. My name is Ray. I use they, them pronouns, and you are listening to Tranzmission on 4ZZZ. Oh, and I should also say Certainty features DJ Champion of Thunder Cub. So I've had an incredible show chatting with Alexi Edwards and MK Zariel, and I've got to hop out of the studio now. If you want to listen back to the interviews that I had today, you can listen to those on the 4ZZZ website, 4zzz.org.au. And while you're there, do a little bit of April Atonement and subscribe to 4ZZZ. All right, I'm going to head out now. You're listening to 4ZZZ.
Thanks for listening to Tranzmission. Catch us every Monday live on 4ZZZ from 10 a.m. or listen to our podcast on the Community Radio Plus app.